Uh, Respected speakers for the APAC event, I welcome you to be the participant in the whole process of understanding the shifting paradigm in Asia Pacific supply chain. And this keynote is a theme address which really sensitizes us to the realities of supply chains and larger economic and socio-economic growth of the region. And as we start this APAC event, we see that Asia is the fastest growing economy in the world. Asia Pacific, houses around more than 40% of total GDP and also provides 50% employment to the world population, and that makes it very special. What also makes it very special is that Asia Pacific has grown with a very high growth rate and is the fastest growing region in the world, making it the fulcrum of all economic activities, including supply chains. In fact, when we see this and we see the composition of Asia Pacific, we are seeing a lot of areas where we need to make very strong impact on in terms of creating the right kind of facilitators to make Asia Pacific competitive and grow further and start making it as the hub of the world economic growth. And it is in this context that we will look at the supply chains. If you look at the number of disruptions across the globe, Asia Pacific has had a maximum number of disruptions. If you see whether it's floods, whether it is geopolitical tensions, whether it is tsunamis, whether earthquakes, all of these have disrupted the supply chains of Asia Pacific. In the recent past, what we see is that the extreme disruptions that we see in terms of COVID-19 has actually affected the region and the world in a very different manner, creating huge amount of disruptions, continuity and uncertainty in the whole process. And as supply chains professionals, we face a very large amount of challenges in terms of continuing the chain, as world cannot really live without the supply chains of the world. And I think the importance of supply chains has been reiterated during these disruption and this extreme disruption. The stoppage of supplies, stoppage of demand, leading to a large-scale degrowth of economies during the first phase. Maybe in the second, way we may see a little lesser this thing as world is coping to stay with disruptions and COVID. What we really need to understand is that Asia Pacific needs to strengthen its supply chain. And I think the themes of strengthening supply chain in Asia Pacific, transforming its supply chain, remains common across the globe. But what makes Asia Pacific very important is that it is the fastest growing region in the world. It seems to be Asia time. The world is would be defined by what Asia does, and hence the regional growth of supply chains in this particular regions can actually play a big role in enhancing the competitive advantage of the regions and the companies operating in the regions. And this is why I would say that we need to concentrate on Asia Pacific in a big way. Fundamentally, one reason that we have seen is that we have been disrupted by global trade tensions, COVID, and even by natural events. How do we really react to this? And large number of opinions that I've been reviewing and looking at, it says that Asia Pacific has to have inter-regional connectivity and a very strongly focused regional supply chain, and should look at this particular disruption as a way of balancing its supply chain, making its supply chain more connected, making supply chain more competitive and responsible. And if this is what is to be done, then the very first thing is that Asia is going to see a very strong regional reorientation of supply bases. I think it is important, because the regionalization of the supply bases and involvement of suppliers in developing regional supply chain is a prerequisite for 2 or 3 different reasons, and which I've already stated in terms of what causes disruptions. Fundamentally, localization would happen, and why it would happen is because given the kind of incidence and probability of these disruptions, we will see that countries look at a very basic, simple MIT framework, which says that if your time of survival is more than your time of resurgence, then you will go for localization. And I think there are a large number of areas where businesses, including pharma and including all other basic raw materials, which is important for running a nation state, is looking at localization in a big way. I see some of the trend in FDIs, and it shows that at least there is an initial response to this. Countries like India and Vietnam and even Thailand are going to gain significantly in this restructuring process, including Bangladesh, if you see in that sense of the term. And this localization is going to be very important. It is also going to be important in terms of diversification, China +1, +2, +3, whatever you talk about. And given the geopolitical tension, I see that this could be a reality with the kind of the ambition that China has. It is very important for us to realize that while these diversification in supply bases will happen, and as they happen, the network design in the supply chain will change, and a large amount of sourcing may not be done by this local or diversified basis, but they will be significantly reassuring that disruptions and risks are mitigated in the long run as we move towards any kind of this kind of very exceptional disruption. China may still remain as the largest sourcing base. Globalization will not be thwarted. And this is something that we need to really look at it. I was reading that post-Suez Canal crisis, in fact, globalization will be at retreat. I think there's another way to look at it. Globalization will get more regional characters. The regions make network with regions to create connectivity in a big way. But two elements of this particular disruption or crisis has come to being. One, which everybody talks about, and is the larger theme of logistics, that world needs to have visibility. World needs to build resilience, and if you need to build resilience, you need to build visibility. Because if you build visibility, you build agility. And if you build agility, you minimize the impact of disruptions, and you can create huge amount of business continuity programs in the process. What Suez Canal, according to me, is something which really needs to be seen in a big way. I'm not going into the statistics and the monetary aspects of it, but what I see is that it also is talking about how nation states can connect with each other and how connectivity can increase in the long run. There is an Iranian sub-route which can be explored. The Russia is claiming to another, and exploring the routes and also the multimodal routes are important in terms of providing enough options for the world to trade. In fact, I was reading Parag Khanna's Connectography, and I think when we compete with city-states, even in Asia Pacific, connectivity between city-states, which are going to be the larger driver of the whole thing, is important. And these city-states can also be a huge problem for the climate change, as they create more waste and generate more carbon footprints, and they need to be tackled in a very different way. How do you bring visibility? I think this is going to be talked by the next panel, but I think there's one common theme that's emerging, that connected planning is going to take an important route where control towers, both logistics and supply and control towers, provided by platforms. And maybe we see in the future that a large number of platforms give way to fewer platforms. They provide capabilities that connects different cities, different ports. They connect all the nodes of supply chain ecosystem and bring visibility in the whole process. And as they build visibility, there are going to be a great amount of data that can be collected and data can be analyzed. and data will be analyzed automatically using machine learning and AI, which has their own ability to create algorithm and hypothesis and build hypothesis so that we get greater insight into the whole process, and all these heuristics which are automatically built from the chaos theory can definitely help us get better insight. Visual processes can help guide supply chains to align themselves in terms of their networks. Third, as the nation state infrastructure and as region starts connecting cities, infrastructure needs to be built. It will be very important and pertinent to see that the whole supply chain network design sits within the larger connected planning of the control tower, and can actually provide a huge amount of benefit to the players, both multinationals and regional, in terms of their supply chain efficiency, supply chain carbon footprint, and others. Visibility also has a very strong this thing, and I think one of the biggest challenges that companies face during disruption is that their supply bases are unknown. Because I was reading a Harvard Business School article which analyzes the supply bases across the globe. It says that most multinationals are connected to the first tier of the supply. And suppose you have 20 tiers or 100 tiers, or your automobile industry having 100 800 sub-tiers. How do you really map them? Mapping sub-tiers so that the bill of material, which has another bill of material, which has another bill of material, traced to the 23rd or 130 or 900, this thing can be visible. And if the visibility is there of this, then obviously there's two things that happen. It's not only increases the power of resilience for the organization, but also starts helping organizations to see that all the norms of environmental, social, and governance are followed at each and every layers of the supply chain, and supply chain becomes more, net zero carbon foot oriented, as well as becomes responsible towards the social and governance framework, which are important for the world to become a better place, and supply chains to contribute to that. Secondly, as we look within the industry, within the company, whole responsibility is to create a smarter manufacturing base so that the carbon footprint can reduce even on the soft floor. What are the things that we need to really look at? The whole manufacturing and factory strategies need to change in order to create the kind of socially responsible work, the factories. We need to have network designs, and I think this is where corporations have failed to do. They operate on their own sphere of influence. A estimate by one of the top 5 says that if you start collaborating to use, and partner to use warehouses and saving warehouses and transportation, the overall carbon footprint can actually reduce by 23%. If you start looking at city logistics and start looking at technology and connecting cities, and as government infrastructure along with the push from the 3Ps takes place, we can see that the carbon footprint can really be reduced in cities by using technology. The idea is that as we move ahead, the inter-regional connectivity through infrastructure, connecting cities in Asia Pacific, connecting suppliers, all have to be done in order to create a more resilient, agile, competitive, and responsible supply chain. And this is where we are moving towards. And I wish to stop here that the future is of responsible supply chain, and the supply chain needs to have resilience. Supply chain needs to have connectivity. Supply chain needs to be visible and agile, along with being responsible. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.